So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I am your host, I am your guide, as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, Zeno FM, and of course our good friends at Simul Radio and Simul TV. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And to find out about the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365, including 2 new shows that are coming on, Mac Maloney's Haunted Universe, and then we also have Freeman Fly, the Psychedelic Witch. 2 new programming starting within the next 2 weeks right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and our website is xzbn.net, and for the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV, or Channel 21 at simultv.com. My guest this hour, X Zone Nation, is Andrew Lake. He is the founder of Greenville Paranormal and is the author of Ghosthunting Southern New England. He's a regular cast member of the 30-odd Minutes, a voice artist, and has been featured in documentaries and television shows about New England ghost stories. And welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
What was it that got you interested in becoming a paranormal investigator or ghost hunter?
Well, I think it's the same for everybody. It's a personal experience. And since the age of 11, I've had a number of experiences. And I've also met an awful lot of people who have shared their experiences with me. So becoming a believer was pretty natural for me. And plus, I live in probably one of the strangest locations on the planet Earth, and that's New England. New England is a very strange place, and it's full of hauntings and other things.
Why do you think New England is so haunted?
That's a question I get asked all the time, and it could be many things. It could be the fact that our history is long and bloody. There's an awful lot of violence in New England. A lot of people don't know of the King Philip's War, which was an absolute horrendous war that took place in the 17th century. Per capita, it was more bloody than our own Civil War. You have a lot of people that settled from Europe, a lot of Puritans that had that fire and brimstone kind of view of the afterworld, and it's been theorized that maybe the deaths of a lot of Puritans who weren't too pure when they were alive, maybe they're holding on to this side of the veil and don't want to go somewhere where they might be judged. So maybe that's why we've got a lot of Puritan ghosts. But it could also be something to do with the geography. We don't know. And of course, I like to think that, outside the box, I like to think that, things, all strange things are connected in some way. And, we have a lot of UFO sightings here in New England. And I've sometimes toyed with the theory that, maybe those craft and their propulsion units rip holes in space and time, and we're seeing things that, normally you wouldn't see. Don't know. We have weird weather in New England, too. Maybe the weather has something to do with it. I don't know, but it's one of those questions that I'm constantly mulling over and wondering about myself.
In your opinion, where is the most haunted or paranormal location in New England?
I would have to say what's become known as the Bridgewater Triangle. That was coined in the late 70s, early 80s by Lauren Coleman. Lauren Coleman is probably one of the researchers into mostly cryptozoology, but he looks into all kinds of weird things. And he lived in the area. He lived in Massachusetts, and while doing his own research into everything from cryptid creatures to ghosts, UFOs, and what have you, he started to realize that there was a central point where these cases seemed to focus, and that was in and around the Huckamuck Swamp. And when he looked at his map of all his cases, he found that from up north, the town of Abington, Mass., and if he came down and connected to Rehoboth, and then went over to about Freetown near the city of Fall River, he basically came up with a triangle, and at the center of it there seemed to be a concentration. But even as Lauren has said to myself and my other colleagues, he said, look, I started this, and I came up with the triangle because it was like the Bermuda Triangle. It kind of rolled off the tongue and caught people's attention. But he said, I'm willing to accept that it goes out into Cape Cod, because Cape Cod is very, very haunted. And my whole state of Rhode Island and eastern Connecticut, it's unbelievable the number of ghost stories that I keep coming across, as well as strange creature stories and strange lights and possibly UFO stories.
Tell us about your organization, Greenville Paranormal.
It's kind of a sham. I get a kick out of when people ask me about it. I am Greenville Paranormal. I'm basically the only member of it.
So all three of you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, basically it's a name to give to somebody when I'm looking to introduce myself, when I've heard rumors that a certain location is haunted. It's more of a front to present myself and saying, hey, my name's Andy, I believe in ghosts.
Right.
But basically that is my organization. I started it back in 2005 when I started a website for it so I could attract a little more attention to myself. But I investigate with other people I know throughout southern New England. I like to bring other people in who've got different disciplines and different approaches, and I've met some people that just have the knack for getting EVPs, and other people that you bring them into the environment, and sure enough, something will happen. There's just something about their makeup or something. But I try to keep things flexible.
Does anything happen when you go out on your own to do an investigation?
Oh yeah. I've had moments where, thank God, I had a camera or an audio recorder going and was able to catch something of what I experienced. But yeah, I've had a moment in an attic in a house in Acushnet, Massachusetts, where I got 4 Class A EVPs in one night in response to me. I've been out on a road in Foster, Rhode Island, looking for a ghost that's referred to as the Grange Hall Ghost, and had probably one of the worst anxiety attacks I've ever had while ghost hunting. And as soon as I composed myself and got a hold of myself and continued the investigation, I found later the next day at that point in my video, I caught a bizarre glowing blue swirl of, I guess you could call it ectoplasm, coming up out of the ground and going off into a cemetery. And I didn't see it with my own eyes at the time, but it may explain the anxiety attack I had. So to answer your question, yeah, there have been a number of times where I've been completely on my own, and I've had some remarkable experiences. But it's so much better when you have other people there that you can later dissect what happened and maybe debunk it or confirm that, no, we all experienced that very weird thing.
Why do you think some locations get reputations as being haunted and others don't?
Well, I sometimes wonder if some of these places that have become kind of like vacation spots because of the reality TV shows, you get these places that, once some of the TV shows have sent their cast members there to investigate, it gets this reputation of being haunted. But even before then, these places become like the local story. It's the abandoned house or piece of property that everybody's convinced has to be haunted. And I sometimes wonder if the attention, whether it's from the locals or then the television attention, I'm wondering if we're sometimes dealing with tulpas, the whole idea of a spirit created simply out of people projecting the idea that a location is haunted. You hear about these places where someone will say, "Oh no, that place is haunted. I've heard this rumor. I've heard that rumor," and then someone from out of town will come and not know anything about that location, and then say, "Wow, it was really weird. I went by that old building up by the intersection, and there was this weird woman standing in the window." Well, he didn't know about the stories, but maybe he saw a ghost that could have possibly been created by sheer will of everybody in the area keep saying that place is haunted. But then again, if it isn't, a theory like that, if it is, say, a spirit, a true spirit, as we like to think ghosts are, perhaps it's the sheer history of that location. Maybe there's something to covet at that location from another time, maybe forgotten treasure, maybe an unjust crime that needs to be solved, and the right person needs to have the blame put on. But there's some locations that you don't think it should be haunted, but yet you keep hearing stories about it. So again, I wish I had a clear-cut answer for you, but I think it could be a number of things.
All right, stand by, Andrew. You and I have to take our first commercial break, and we shall be back in a couple of seconds. Exonation, our guest this hour is Andrew Lake, and his website is www.greenvilleparanormal.com, and he's the author of Ghosthunting Southern New England. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light. Exonation, Andrew Lake is my special guest this hour. He's the author of Ghosthunting Southern New England. His website is www.greenvilleparanormal.com. Andrew, why do you think in today's society, here we are the year 2018, and we live in a very high-tech world, why do people want to believe in the paranormal? Why do people go out seeking the events or the phenomenon?
For myself, I like to think that there are things going on right alongside of our everyday reality that isn't fully understood. I kind of get a little bit. My cackles kind of go up when I hear people speak of the world around us like they know it. They've got it under their thumb. Science can explain this, and religion can explain that. But then something will occur that's outside any of their realms of understanding and explanation. So for me, it's the thrill of knowing that there are realities and things going on around us that the everyday world doesn't acknowledge. For other people, I don't know. Sometimes I think there are a lot of people who are sort of agnostic in their spiritual beliefs. So maybe, connecting with the afterworld, that's, as far as they'll take religious or spiritual beliefs, but yet they're still incorporating it somewhat into their life. I think there are some people that just do it for the sheer thrill of it. There are people who like to ghost hunt nowadays that I notice who are really into horror films and slasher movies and gore films. So for some people, it seems to be just a cheap attempt to try and experience some real life, horror and thrills for themselves. But it does seem to have taken on, a new life, because through the 70s and 80s, if I brought up the subject of ghosts, chances are I'd be laughed at and told to keep quiet. It seemed like around 2005, when the show Ghost Hunters started, that people seemed to be a little bit more open-minded, and I found it a lot easier for me to broach the subject and bring it up without people going, that's a bunch of nonsense.
Well, I remember going back to 1995 or 1994 when our show first started, the syndication. And ghost hunting was a really big topic there. It seems that after the X-Files came out, as well as the popularity of the Internet and everybody having access to the Internet at home, man, it just blossomed.
Yeah, and also Art Bell, I think, had a lot to do with it,
Hey,
too.
Listen, he was the greatest of greats.
Yeah. Oh, he saved my life. I had a delivery courier job from hell. It was third shift. I drove 486 miles a night, and the radio was absolutely terrible. And one night, 2 weeks into the job, I'm flipping through the dial, and I hear someone say Bigfoot. I was like, whoa, what's that? And I tuned back, and that's how I discovered Art Bell. And for those 15 months I did that job, man, he saved my life. And yes, I did notice that, well, hey, there's other people out there talking about this, and I don't feel so alone. I think Art Bell was probably the first person to give me a room, so to speak, a venue to visit, so to speak, where I didn't feel like I was out of place.
Gotcha. What was your first paranormal experience?
At the age of 11, staying in a very old house owned by a family that we're friends with. The house is built in the 1800s, and I woke up at 2:35 one night, and this house was very, very old. The floors, you could literally, if you got down on your knees, you could see through the floorboards to downstairs. This house was only good for a summer house. I don't know how anybody ever lived in it throughout, the winter in the old days. But anyway, I woke up at 2:35, and directly below me in the kitchen, somebody was busy in the kitchen. And their feet never touched the floor. I never heard footsteps, just them moving chairs, opening cabinets, taking bowls and silverware out of drawers, and then it just stopped. And everybody was accounted for upstairs, and they were all sound asleep. And it happened again the very next night. And when I brought it up to my friend, his family were very religious and didn't believe in the supernatural. And when he got tired of me asking questions about, what I had experienced those 2 nights, he said, I don't know, my great aunt died in the house. Maybe it was her. And when I tried to talk to his father about it, he got kind of upset with me. He said, we don't talk about those things, Andrew. And I remember apologizing and feeling awkward, but I'm absolutely convinced it was his great aunt kicking around in the house.
How do we explain?
And then when I was 13, I had another experience in England with my mother, and we were backed up later when somebody stayed at that same location and never heard our story, and then told almost the same story back to us. And of course, what really kept me going is in my 20s, I actually lived in a haunted house in Scituate, Rhode Island, which is funny because I had my first experience in Scituate, Mass., and then I ended up living in Scituate, Rhode Island in a haunted house with 2 female spirits.
How do we explain the fact that you were able to hear the apparition or the specter, presumably of this person's aunt, when, taking out pots, pans, dishes, silverware, moving chairs around, when ghosts have no physical extremities? They're not physical. They're basically...
And plus, if I was to go downstairs, there probably wouldn't have been one thing moved out of place because the next morning nothing was touched. And this is my personal theory.
Yeah.
I've been told, I've worked with psychics, and I've worked with some gals who are absolutely remarkable. And something they all said to me is, Andrew, you're far more psychic than you realize. You're much more psychic than you realize. So I sometimes wonder if experiences that people have with hauntings is they're not actually seeing something with their eyes or hearing something with their ear. They're experiencing it more psychically than visually or through auditory. And I think what I was experiencing was the energy of my friend's great aunt. The family is back in the house. The family energy is there. It brings her out of the fabric, so to speak. And she is, in spirit form, reliving what she would have been doing. She would have been doing things in the kitchen. She would have been preparing things and getting stuff ready. So I think in spirit form, she's doing what she naturally would have done in that environment. And I was picking up on it psychically, not actually with my ears. But that's just my theory.
So what is the goal of anyone who investigates the paranormal? For example, let's just stick to ghosts for this hour. What is the goal? Why do they do it?
Well, I think a lot of people make the mistake that they're going to be the one that comes up with that aha piece of, so-called evidence that's going to finally prove it. But I try to explain to people, you're never going to prove anything. Just like skeptics can't disprove it, we can't prove it. So I think a lot of people get down that rabbit hole that they're going to get that camera or that audio recorder or whatever that's going to get that piece of evidence that's going to make even skeptics go, well, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's never going to happen. So for me, it's just for the personal interest of it. And if I can capture an EVP or an anomaly, I'll share it with other people. And like we're doing right now, just sitting here chatting about it, I do like to give public talks and be able to tell my stories and other people's stories and show photographs and video clips. But I tell all my audience members that none of this is proof of anything. It's just fascinating. And it's also history. That's the other thing about ghosts. Ghosts are history, and I'm a bit of a history buff. And I find it really fascinating that when you can back up a ghost story with actual historic documentation. Yeah. So that's it for me, too. That's another thing, because I'm a bit of a history buff.
If skeptics can't prove that a ghost doesn't exist and believers can't prove a ghost does exist, It makes no sense to do it.
Yeah, it is. But then again, I think climbing up mountains just because they're there is kind of stupid.
I agree.
But there are people that are going to do that.
Sure.
And again, when you've had that personal experience, and you go home and you're like, "Son of a gun, I saw that."
Right.
It really can just charge you to keep looking for it. It can become sort of like an addiction. I mean, I think some of the most satisfying moments I've had is I had skeptics with me when things happened, and it absolutely turned their world upside down. And that'll always recharge my batteries and get me back out there looking to see if I can have that, that experience. But just being in an environment that has history and has these stories is enough for me. I feel sorry for those people that buy hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of gadgets, and then they go out there and nothing happens, so they feel like, they got cheated some way.
Speaking about gadgets, so how do you explain an EVP? For example, I understand what an EVP is, but the technology behind it. I've been in media for I think since 1981, and I'm pretty savvy with audio and broadcasting. I've got an engineering degree in broadcast media. EVPs defy every rule of logic and science and engineering. If you cannot hear something, it cannot be recorded. And yet, people play back with an audio session either on a digital recorder or analog recorder, and they claim to get these EVPs.
And it's been happening since the invention of electronic tape too. The first ones were discovered in Europe right after World War II. And as crazy as it sounds, they claim that the EVP was actually Adolf Hitler apologizing. So, I mean, this phenomenon has been known of for some time. And there's even supposedly a wax recording of a shaman that was being interviewed at a reservation, and there was another voice on the wax cylinder that was not the shaman talking. So this has been around for a while. And again, it's something that I'd want to say, go back to my theory that it's something to do with psychic energy and psychic imprints. But I've had cases, and other people have had cases, where I've had headphones on with a very sensitive microphone, and I've heard the voice, and everybody was accounted for, and nobody said what I heard. And sure enough, it's on the recording.
All right, stand by. We've got to take our news break. Exonation.
Oh, sure.
Andrew Lake is our guest this hour, www.greenvilleparanormal.com, and he is the author of Ghosthunting Southern New England. We'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology right here in the X-Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
And welcome back, everyone. Before we get back to our guest this hour, Andrew Lake, over the years, people have come on this show and said, you know, with the information that we have pertaining to whatever the paranormal phenomena is, if we were to take the evidence that we have into a court of law, we would win the case. Interesting proposition, I have thought to myself. So what we did was we've created a TV show called Paranormal Court TV that will give you the opportunity of presenting your case, your findings, your evidence in a real court. That's right, with a real judge, a real prosecutor, and if you don't have a lawyer to represent you, or you want to represent yourself and present your own case, that's great. We'll have forensic scientists, trained police criminal investigators, as well as polygraph examiners and PSE examiners, photographic examiners, and audio examiners. Now, if you would like to present your case on Paranormal TV, that will be broadcast around the world live on Simul TV, go to www.paranormaltv.com. And at the very top of the page is a case submission form. Click on that, fill out the form, send it to us, and one of our producers will contact you about getting you on the show. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. You have to submit to a polygraph test. You have to submit to a psychological stress evaluation test prior to going on the show. Here's something else. The jury is the world. It will be broadcast in real time on Simul TV, on the X-Zone TV channel, and based on the evidence, the world will render the verdict of either fact or fiction. Once again, www.paranormalcourttv.com. Welcome back, Andrew. Nice having you with us.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the USS Salem?
Oh, the Salem, yeah. I'm not sure what the present state of that ship is. I know they're having problems with the dock, so I don't know if it's still open to the public. But I've been on the Salem, and the Salem is an interesting ship. It never saw combat during the Cold War. Its sister ship, the Newport News, did go to Vietnam and had an absolute horrible disaster on board. But it was over near Greece, and while on its tour of duty, there was a horrible earthquake on one of the Greek islands, and it was absolutely terrible. And the Salem was the first one to get there and took on a lot of injured and sick and dying folks, including a lot of animals, from what I understand, and that's relevant to the haunting. But they had a lot of births, and they had a lot of deaths in that time, and all the deaths attributed on the boat are Greek civilian deaths. There was a guy killed on it while it was in dry dock. I think he fell down one of the elevator shafts. And there was a docent, once it was in Quincy, Mass. As a museum, a docent passed away of a heart attack. But the ship has had quite a few investigations on it, and some people have caught some very impressive EVPs and anomalies. But I think my favorite story is about the docent who passed away on the ship from a heart attack, because people have gotten lost while taking a tour of the ship and then found their way back to where they want to be because of the very nice guy down by the anchor room that showed them the way to go. And when they talk about him, it's the guy who passed away, because none of the other docents have told him, the guy you're talking about is dead. But I find it very interesting that a guy who was so passionate about keeping that ship alive as a museum is still helping wayward tourists find their way out of the place.
Do any of these wayward tourists ever take a picture of this nice little guy?
No. There was. I mean, if you think about it, there's no reason to take a picture of a guy telling you, no, you want to go back that way. You're heading the wrong way. But no, nobody's taken a photograph of him. There's been some EVPs recorded of like people in pain and agony. Some people have claimed they've caught what sounds like Greek. I've never heard whether it's been determined whether it was Greek. But there were, like I said, there were animals brought on board, and one of the docents told me that they were shutting the ship down for the night. It was just he and a woman, one of the directors of the museum. They were the only ones on the ship, and they clearly heard a dog barking decks below them. And there was no dog on board. They even checked to make sure of it, to make sure somehow a stray didn't get on board, and never found him. But there was told that people brought their pets and animals on board after the earthquake. So maybe it's an injured dog that perished on the ship. But a fascinating museum if anybody's interested in military history.
But what do we know about the ship itself? Where was it built? When was it commissioned? When was it? It was built in the dockyards right there in Quincy, where it is now. That's actually where it was built. Its sister ship, the Newport News. One of the other reasons why it might be haunted is because the Newport News had a gun turret explode while firing rounds into North Vietnam. And it was supposedly a horrible disaster. Guys not only were killed in the gun turret, but they were killed decks below. There were guys who were burned to death by steam pipes that burst from the explosion. But stuff from the Newport News were placed on the Salem in a museum dedicated to the Newport News. So there are items on that ship that came from its sister ship that had this horrible disaster on board. So some people feel that some of the military ghosts that psychics claim to have communicated with are guys that are attached to the stuff from the Newport News. But like I said, the Salem went out into the Mediterranean to face off against the Soviet Union. It was supposed to be a very impressive ship for its day. It was supposed to be made for World War II, but it wasn't finished till after the end of the war. But it had an aiming system on its guns that scared the heck out of the Russians. So when it went around the Mediterranean, it was a big dog in the neighborhood to be reckoned with. But again, never saw combat, never had to go toe to toe with anybody. You've mentioned psychics a number of times over the past time that we've been speaking. Why do you put so much credence in psychics?
I don't put so much credence into anything, really. Okay. I don't mean to sound sarcastic or anything, but I have met women throughout my life, even from my childhood. And it's funny, I've only met one guy who's had the ability, but I've met some women who've had the remarkable ability to pick up on things that could be verified. And when they can give me names and very detailed situations, and someone can come along and go, oh my God, I know exactly what he or she is talking about, and they're able to put that information down right in front of me, and people go, I was here when that happened. I know exactly what she's talking about. That's why I feel there definitely is something to it, that there is some kind of frequency vibration out there that contains information that certain people can pick up and read. And they all seem to have different degrees. I've known some that could give absolute perfect descriptions of a person, but couldn't even get an initial on a name. And somebody who could barely give me a description of the person they were talking to, but could give me a first name and like a last initial or even get the last name correct. So you can't just grab a psychic and go, okay, I'm going to take you to this location and you're going to do this type of reading. Every one of them seems to have a different degree of ability. But again, like I've said, I've worked with some that were RNs. I mean, a nurse that worked up in Boston. We're talking a serious professional, and she had a remarkable ability to pick up on names and situations. Worked with a young lady named Stephanie, who's just absolutely shut people up. Even skeptics have walked away going, I don't know how she did that. But that's creeping me out. So I guess you work with them enough. Some of them are living in their own little world, and they're not really psychic. But I have met, I think, 4 solid psychics in my life that have just absolutely been remarkable. And the EVPs that I've caught, especially with Stephanie, have been remarkable. Like I caught up to 3, 4, 5 EVPs in an hour with her just walking through a location. So that's another reason why I like working with them. I seem to catch remarkable EVPs in their presence.
So what kind of remarkable EVPs have you caught?
Well, I'll tell you, just off the top of my head, there was a house I looked into for 7 years in Scituate, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And I brought a gal named Alicia who is very good at catching EVP. For what reason, I don't know if it's the recorder she uses or whatever, but she's a down-to-earth, good gal. She's not a game player. She's not an attention seeker, so I can trust her. Well, we had this other gal with us, Nicole, who was quite gifted. Mm-hmm. And we were sitting in the room, and we were using a dowsing crystal to see if we could get any yes or no answers. And I looked over at the homeowner and these two gals, and I said, doesn't the atmosphere in the room feel like it changed? Doesn't it feel like that jerk is in the room with us? Or the guy's in the room with us? That's how I put it. And the psychic goes, yeah, he's a jerk. And the homeowner goes, first-class jerk. And right as she says that, this male voice goes, you slut. Mm-hmm. You know, just like that is, you know, they're insulting this entity. This voice, as clear as a bell, as if the guy was sitting in the room with us, says that. All right, stand by. We've got to take our final break. Exonation, okay. Andrew Lake is my guest for this hour. www.greenvilleparanormal.com, and he's the author of Ghosthunting Southern New England. And we'll both be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. For the latest edition of the X Chronicles newspaper, go online with our compliments, xchroniclesnewspaper.com. And don't forget to submit your paranormal case to have your case heard in our court, the Paranormal Court. Go to www.paranormalcourttv.com. Go to the top of the page and click on the case hearing submission. It'll bring you to a page, fill out the form, send it in to us, and one of our producers will get a hold of you. I'll be back on the other side. Don't go away.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Path Home Shamanic Art School has just launched a new online series of classes, Galactic Shamanism, Art of the Ancients, Key to Tomorrow. In these classes, composed and taught by Path Home founder and director Gwilda Wiyaka, you'll learn practical shamanic skills to support your daily life, such as how to build a medicine wheel to access the power of the earth, perform a shamanic journey, create sacred space in which to live and work, empower your life with totem animals, elementals, and fairy folk, and learn the art of accurately reading signs and omens. These tried and true skills are the key to living a powerful, productive life. Visit us at findyourpathhome.com to see the ever-growing collection of classes and leading-edge information to support you during these times of uncertainty and transition. All can be found at findyourpathhome.com.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, The 70-Year Cover-Up Exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Andrew Lake. He's the author of Ghosthunting Southern New England. His website is greenvilleparanormal.com. You spoke about Mark Twain, or the Mark Twain house in your book. What can you tell us about your experience there?
Oh, it's a beautiful place. It's absolutely amazing how over the years the folks in Connecticut found a lot of the Twains' belongings and got them back into the house and brought the house back to its heyday. It's a remarkable home, and the Marden Museum next door is worth seeing. But the house itself is where Twain was probably the most successful and happy in his life. But it's also where he lost his daughter Susie. And when she passed, the family was just absolutely devastated, and they ended up moving away and building another house in Connecticut, which has burned to the ground. But they left the house, and for some reason, the house seems to be not only haunted by Susie, who's been seen moving about the house, actually floating above the floor. She moves rather smoothly and quickly through the house. But they've heard the laughter of children and have actually seen children about the house. And the only explanation for that is the fact that Mark Twain used to love entertaining his kids and the local kids, and he and his right-hand man, his butler and buddy, used to play the horses and the animals and make up stories in the indoor garden. And so it makes you wonder if these are spirits that are in visitation because it was such a happy place to be. There's nothing sinister or dark about the hauntings there. Probably the funniest one was when a smoke alarm went off in the middle of the night, and the fire department that's right across the street answered the alarm, came in the house, checked the board, saw it was on the third floor where Mark Twain used to sit up by his billiard tables and his desk and smoke up a storm with his cigars. And they went to the house, and there was no fire, but yet the third floor was absolutely filled with the smoke, the smell of cigar smoke. There was no smoke visibly seen, but the firemen all agreed that all they could smell was cigar smoke, and they stayed there for hours to make sure that there wasn't a fire somewhere hidden in the wall or the ceiling or whatever, and determined that there was no fire. And all of them walked out kind of chuckling and shrugging their shoulders, going, wow, that's kind of weird, but maybe Mark Twain was in residence and smoking up a psychic cigar, so to speak.
But once again, how would the smell of a cigar be?
That's just it. That's just it. That's the many questions, because I mean the paranormal is like an ice cube. If you try and hold it too tight, it will squirt out through the top of your hand or melt quickly and run through your fingers. That's why I keep telling myself that, like that case I mentioned that I looked in for 7 years, every time I thought I had a handle on that case, it would take a different turn. So the paranormal it'll always keep you guessing, and all I can tell the people is keep an open mind, know that anything is possible, and just use your imagination. Don't try and nail anything down, or you'll just get frustrated and disappointed.
Why is it only certain people have the experience? And if the paranormal was real, wouldn't everyone have the same experience?
Well, I've run into an awful lot of people that will start off by looking at me really serious and going, look, I don't believe in ghosts, but I got to tell you, my wife and kids are telling the truth. I thought they were nuts, and I saw that little girl walk through the house. I even followed her into the bedroom. She was as real as you, and she disappeared. I don't believe in this stuff, but I saw it.
Oh, okay.
And the only explanation I could have for that is maybe that person is a little bit more psychic than they're willing to admit to themselves. But I've met people from all walks of life that have had no experiences, and some that seem every time they turn around or the new house they move into or whatever they haven't experienced. So I haven't been able to pin that one down either.
Why do you think mainstream science has not taken an interest in investigating the paranormal?
Well, I mean, I think most people by now have heard about the book and now new documentary, The Hunt for the Skinwalker, and Bob Bigelow's very serious attempt to look into that ranch in northeastern Utah. They had everything from poltergeist activity to Bigfoot and UFOs. And
yeah, is that the one with James Gilliland?
No, that was oh geez, I'm sorry, I got George Norrie's name stuck in my head. It was the broadcaster from out west there. I hate when I draw a blank on someone's name.
Oh, it's okay.
But anyway, they investigated this guy, Bob Bigelow, multi-billionaire involved in the space program. He had a team of scientists at his disposal for years looking into this property, and they all admitted that something new, that they were there investigating the phenomena, and it played games with them. And two of the scientists left the ranch in absolute terror and said, "Don't ever mention my name or embarrass me by telling people what happened to me." So those scientists, their end result was, it knew we were trying to study it, and it wouldn't let us study it, and it would play games with us that we couldn't, we weren't prepared for, or we weren't ready for, so we couldn't record it or document it. Supposedly the new team that's there, they've caught 4 daylight UFO photographs, but I know nothing more than that. So I think, like Morris Gross from England said years ago, he was the guy who looked into the Enfield poltergeist case. He says there's a universal trickster. There's a trickster that plays games with us. And the Muslims believe in the jinn. The Muslims will tell you that all paranormal is the jinn. It's a demon-like character that likes to mess with your mind and make you see things that aren't there. So who knows? Maybe the reason why scientists don't want to look into it is because they don't want to be ridiculed, and others have, and they've had games played with them that just, befuddle them and make them throw their hands up and give up.
But that doesn't make sense to me as a layperson. I'm not a scientist. I've never claimed to be a scientist. And yet, scientists are spending billions of dollars trying to get us to Mars, or they're investigating this, that, and the other thing, wasting money left, right, and center. So why wouldn't they? Are they afraid of the dark? Is that why they don't want to go and investigate?
Also, I've had other people make the point that there's a lot more money to a space program than to proving that ghosts are real.
Or proving ghosts aren't real, because now ghost and the paranormal is turning into a nice little para-tourism industry.
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty of that, too. I give my own personal tours of Haunted Rhode Island. If anybody's in the area and interested, I can give them a tour of Haunted Rhode Island. So I'm a little guilty of commercialism, too, to an extent.
But what does that commercialism do to the validity of anybody who's making a claim that the paranormal is real?
I try to make sure that I'm not stepping on anybody's toes or telling someone else's story wrong. I try to get the facts straight as I've been told, or I've learned them. I try to only tell stories that I personally feel.
I guess what I'm trying to say. No, that's not what I'm trying to get at.
I'm sorry.
Here you've got, credibility at question here. Whenever money walks in, credibility walks out.
Right. I follow you.
So what has the para industry done to the world of the paranormal besides exploit it and exploit the people who believe and exploit people?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. No, they have made a bit of a mockery of it.
Yeah.
I get kind of disappointed when people gravitate to me. They see how long I've been doing this and my interest, and they start bringing up these TV shows, and I just have to kind of politely roll my eyes and explain to them, I just don't follow any of those because it's all nonsense. It's all there's no way that every single week your team can get evidence and experiences and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think the industry of the television shows and some of the lesser blog radio shows out there, I think, are just trying to jump on a hot topic and milking it for all they can. I know these production companies. They only want to do the same show over and over and over again. You can't bring them a different approach to do it. They want to do it that reality show with drama and personalities. So, I mean, as long as they're going to continue following that format, I don't think the paranormal will be dealt with in a serious, respectful light as far as TV production goes.
You see, and that's why we're producing our own, because we have the assets, we have the ability, and we have the networks. So we've decided to do our own. You know, basically put your money where your mouth is. If you say that you can actually go into a court of law, present the evidence that will prove your case, we'll give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I say good luck with that. Yeah. But boy, that would definitely be a good courtroom argument. I can see some people getting a little bit heated with that.
So can I listen? Before we go, we've got about a minute and a half. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and I wish you continued success. I like the way you think.
Oh, thank you very much. No, I talk to anybody who knows me, and I can rant and rave about the paranormal for hours.
Quickly, tell us about the Grafton House.
I'm sorry, the which house?
Grafton.
The Grafton House.
Yeah.
That's in Connecticut?
I have no idea. It's in the questions that you submitted. Yeah, you said, what can you...
Grafton House.
Yeah, it's right under the question you sent about the Mark Twain house.
The Grafton House. I've drawn a blank on it. That, I believe, is the... Oh, boy, do I feel stupid. The Grafton House. I don't think I did the Grafton House. The name is familiar, but I did not...
Here's what you sent our producer.
I didn't send the producer anything, to be honest with you. That's why you've thrown me.
Well, is your email address greenvillagepr@yahoo.com? Hello? Hello?
PR@yahoo.com.
Yeah. So you said, we've got 10 questions here, or 9 questions, and question number 8 is, what can you tell us about the Grafton House?
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I did not see that list of questions. I don't mean to seem stupid, but I did not see that list of questions, and I didn't answer any. But the Grafton House, the name sounds familiar, but off the top of my head, I can't tell you one thing about it.
All right, we've got to say so long for now. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about our guest this hour and the questions that he said he didn't send are right here. That's his picture, and here are the questions. We're not making this up. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. I am Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.